So we were just talking before. So we met a couple years back. Our daughters both went to the same school. And we were at a school function. We got to talking about work, which why not talk about work at a school function, right?
Of course.
But so you were talking about your business, and it was super interesting because you guys have a really interesting perspective on everything from accounting to inventory management to manufacturing to really the fundamentals, a lot of business systems. What exactly does the business do, and what's your professional background?
Perfect. So I figure I'll start with TEKLYNX and kind of peel back because
Awesome.
Majority of my career has been at TEKLYNX. So TEKLYNX makes barcoding and labeling software. So at the core of everything we do is designing a label to print. As you're very well aware, many times in a business that touches more parts than people can imagine. Inventory, anything track and trace, all the way through finished goods leaving the door. Very often, goods don't leave the door without a label, and businesses that do it right do that completely on demand. So it happens as the products are manufactured. And that part of the business is kind of at our core. Everything from, I always describe it as like a mom and pop sandwich shop. The sausage stick you see at Quick Trip, all the way to a medical device. It has a label, different procedures behind it, different integrated elements of data, and TEKLYNX plays a role in that in one way or another. But that's more on the design side of the business. The part of the business that I find really, really exciting is what we call the enterprise side. And it's our products that'll link with your business system, whether it's your ERP, your warehouse management, lab management system, a custom front end. And takes that data, waits for a print request, processes it, and spits out the label. We have that as kind of the automation piece. We offer some products that help with more of a track and trace. So everything from who designed the label, who printed the label, where did the data come from, approve it prior to it getting print, and then be able to look back at the end to say, hey, if a label was misprinted, was it just misprinted once? Was it misprinted countless times? And then our really cool product that has grown in popularity the fastest over the past 6 years is one that lets companies involve their suppliers or their contract manufacturers or out-of-network business entities in the label printing process. So it's really a web page. You key in a work order, part number, SKU, whatever it might be to drive the flow within your business, returns your label and prints. So that's really TEKLYNX in a nutshell. Everything from designing your label to maybe publishing it to print to your contract manufacturers across the globe.
So how much of the TEKLYNX team is focusing on like prepackaged, almost catalog type solutions versus that enterprise customization?
Oh, that's a fun question because even pre-pandemic, there was a transition in businesses listening to my mom, right? They were working smarter, not harder. So they started saying it doesn't make sense to print out of the same system in which you're designing in. And traditionally, that's our product that's cataloged, right? We sell it through a series of resellers. They do a great job. Label design software is a small part of a big solution. There's media, printers, the business system.
And when you say label design software, that could be a device at a workstation that is essentially the software and the database for the labels live on that device. It gets printed off. Is that connected to the cloud or a centralized kind of repository, or it can be both?
Yeah, well, traditionally, it lived
it's all local.
Lived on that station. Yep. And then about 4 years before the pandemic, we started seeing a major adoption of, I always refer to it as big data, right?
Yep.
We have one source of the truth, and it's not an Excel sheet that's duplicated on 5 workstations where we print labels. So people started driving information for their labels from those single sources of the truth. And that shifted to, I don't want to make a decision to print a label. I want a label to be a result of an action within that business system that's holding the single source of the truth. To, I want to leverage that data, but I want to enable people outside of my business to print on my behalf or print a label for goods I'm going to receive.
So there's a checkpoint, a central checkpoint, and then the people, whether it's on the shop floor, it could be in a bakery somewhere, they're executing on a command, not having to make decisions on. I guess, is it part numbers? Is it? It could be a variety of things that need to go on the label.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I'd say my favorite thing I see is when a business pivots from having a label room, right? A room where people go to make decisions, to print labels, and then carry them out to different locations, to printing happening on the line. And naturally, when printing moves from one room, a finite amount of people, to the line, you have a lot more fingers in the mix, right? And in that, you need the systems of control, which is where it really pivots from making a decision within the designer to I released my work order and a label for every part number or SKU. I know I didn't directly answer it. Like, is it part numbers? It always,
could be anything.
It's always everything too. And then most of the time when we get into it, it's really like we solve the. Let me peel back. I'm passionate about using software to solve business problems. I have spent a lot of years seeing software be like the bane of people's existence. And growing up, my aunt ran a software company distributing software, and I just had a lot of exposure to the pain points of people complaining about the products. And I was there when they were rolling out SAP, and it took twice as long and cost twice as much, and everybody was constantly mad. So I kind of use that to see it in a different light, to say, I want to be the software provider that's making it easy, right? And it's one thing to just design and print the label. It's another to be able to go the route of saying, it happened, mistakes are completely eliminated.
Yeah, no, that's such a great perspective, because software can be so incredibly useful if it's done properly, and like you said, it can be incredibly frustrating if it's not done properly. And my experience has been that oftentimes various systems don't play nice with each other, and you really need a partner. You need somebody within the organization that understands enough of the operational side of the business, but also the technology side of the business. And oftentimes those are separate departments, those are separate people, all with great intentions, but they maybe haven't spent any time on the floor. They maybe haven't spent any time with the accounting teams. They maybe don't know the vendors that are also managing their portion of the software, and that's a different system. So that was really fun, chatting with you early on, just the breadth of perspective. Is that something you guys kind of lead with when you're working with clients? Is you guys have a full spectrum understanding of what's going on?
It's relatively situational.
It is. Probably depends on the size of the company and how sophisticated they are.
Exactly. And I think early on in our discussions, when you were talking about the labeling the shelves to keep the inventory, the warehouse that you're currently building, we try to take that approach, say dump all the information on us, and then often lean on our experience to either say, okay, I think we can help in one way or another, or say, I've seen other companies do this, and it's not something that we necessarily help with, but we try to take the caregiver approach, say,
sure,
I'd love to sell you something, but I can't always do that.
Yeah.
What I'd say hits home the most with that question, though, is how much swell happens within a business, right? We'll start in a company where we'll automate printing out of one business system. They get acquired, or a different branch sees how they're doing it, and IT guys talk. They see, well, it's easy to generically integrate any system of data with the labeling system via a variety of different technical ways. And they can say, we can eliminate any integration on occasion and have printing be the result of an action, right? And whether that's even printing an inventory tag or a work in process tag, we see so much of our business from people we've already done business with. And I'd say more often than not, the really fun part about it is it's the same printers. right? It's just a different workflow. So they're really squeezing the most juice out of that fruit. It's unlike some ERP providers and whatnot, everything we sell isn't a bolt-on. Sometimes it's like, well, you want to put a new system in it, it's the same devices, go right ahead.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what's your background? I know we both went to the same college. So
Yep.
I went to UWM. I was a finance and econ major. You studied, is it management information systems?
Yep.
And were you in an engineering role early on in your career? Or what is, I guess, your education and professional background look like, and how has it evolved?
Yeah. So I graduated in May of 2009. I got smacked in the face with a little bit of reality right at graduation time. The year before,
There was a recession.
Yeah,
There was a recession, yeah.
Yeah, the year before, the world changed a little bit with the crash of the housing market. And at that point in time, I was going to school for finance. UWM did a really great thing where they would always publish the business degrees and the percentage of students from the previous year that were employed. And in 2008, people with finance degrees went down like sub 40%, but the managing information system degrees stayed at like a solid 85%. So I switched majors right then, did all of my managing information system classes in 1 year. It was a real hard year because
It's a busy year.
When it was I always liked the night class where it was like once a week for 3 hours and then one lab. So I had 4 of those in 1 year. That was a real pain, but then got through it. In May of 2009, my parents came to visit me to talk about graduation, and my dad pulled an envelope out, and I said, I'm getting some money. I felt so excited, and it was my cell phone bill. It was the last thing that like they were taking care of. So I immediately went and started looking for a job, and I fell for a great scam. I applied at a staffing agency to be the data guy, and the staffing agency said, that position is filled, but we have many places we can place you. So it was great on their part, and in the end, it worked out great for me because they placed me at Brady Corporation at a subsidiary of it called TEKLYNX that made barcoding and labeling software, and the job was a production job. That was 13 years ago now. So I was packing boxes in production, right? I was. And back then, we shipped a lot more physical products.
That's a great place to start.
Oh, yeah. And it comes full circle, right? I was applying labels using our labeling product to our labeling product. So it was a kind of a life cycle thing there. But I worked there. I worked in production for about 6 months. It wasn't the most lucrative job. I had paid my cell phone bill. I was also side gigging as a bartender, so I didn't necessarily care too much. From there, I didn't want to bartend anymore. Wasn't a healthy long-term lifestyle. So I told my manager at the time, I said, hey, there's no openings here, but I'm looking to, make a shift to something a little more related to my degree. And she said, well, we have a spot in tech support if you want it. And I was like, how much does it pay? We went through the talks, ultimately worked in tech support. Then I worked in customer service and tech support simultaneously. And then about 18 months into my employment, I got my big break at TEKLYNX when one of the sales engineers quit. And everything I was doing before that really fell into the commodity side of the business. It was when that engineer quit that I applied for that position and ultimately got the job. And it opened up my eyes to everything isn't a label design product that you print out of. We do a lot of deeply integrated work to automate printing to, on occasion, thousands of devices. And that's when I really got exposure to using the technology to actually solve business problems. I worked with a Milwaukee company here. I don't have the paperwork in place to say their name right now, but we could circle back.
Right.
And we implemented an automation solution.
Okay.
They went from, I always call it the file open, print and pray process, right? People making decisions, people can make mistakes, they can fat finger something, to when they release their work order, the printer has the labels waiting. And the lady there, her name was Victoria, she said, Nick, this fundamentally changes our business. And I didn't even grasp the concept, right? And she told me what I did. And I was like, you're right. We did change it from decisions that people are making that have mistakes that are complemented by quality control and potentially an error here and there, to labeling becoming a result of an action in a business system. And that really is what accelerated my success, because I was so sold after that, because we fixed a problem, Not only was I getting a paycheck, but I was
feel good about
yeah,
solving a real deal problem.
Made me passionate.
Yeah.
And at that point, all the salespeople really liked working with me because they could bring an engineer in who wasn't the typical engineer who was going to demo the product. It was the engineer who was talking about other experiences, really getting people jacked up, So that our business grew very fast from that point on. And we got more salespeople. We got another engineer. I was kind of the lead engineer. And that naturally shifted into a product management position, where I took, I'd love to say it was my idea, but I really just took somebody else's idea to make a web printing tool. It was somebody else's idea within TEKLYNX, but I was the product manager, engineer. We have a great development team, many of them out of France. We have a French location, a Germany location, an Italy location, one in Singapore, and did product management for 8 years. So I oversaw the strategic direction of our products, as well as the team of engineers that implemented them, while kind of overseeing our commodity products as well, which we're always introducing innovation, new barcodes, operating system, support for new devices, connecting to cloud databases, the things that have to be there. But I really gravitated towards the enterprise side because the business was growing faster there. And then it was about 9 months ago that I volunteered to run the sales organization, because we kind of had the right people in the right places for product management to have me step back a little bit. So now I oversee the engineers and the sales side of the business for TEKLYNX. So I'm all in on TEKLYNX.
No, that's
my whole professional career.
It's so cool to hear you talk about all the building blocks along the way, from spending time on the floor, for a few months initially, getting into solving a technical problem for a customer, being a product manager, working with engineers, working with a variety of people. Because I think just, sometimes maybe it takes a little bit longer for, people to really have a well-rounded, skill set in multiple disciplines, but it serves you so well in the long term. Having that perspective. Would you agree?
Oh, I'd agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And I try not to adapt my communication, but people value different things.
For
right?
sure.
So one of my favorite things that I've learned is how one solution we sell brings different benefits based on who you're talking to, right? If I'm talking to the person who's actually on the floor, they don't want to change.
Yeah.
So if I can say, well, if we change to something that was so intuitive you didn't need to learn, they're sold, right? Yep. To the IT guy, well, this change makes it so you don't need to manage locally installed software on each client station. All right, they're sold. The CEO, this reduces your entire quality control group that's reviewing labels that may have been erroneously printed because the system's making the choice, not a human. And I love getting to be in the room with all three of them.
You essentially have learned multiple languages.
Oh,
different positions effectively speak different languages, and we talk a lot about that. And we even, we're not a huge company, but we have a lot of different people that speak a lot of different languages here. We have application engineers, product engineers, direct sales staff, strategic sales staff, fabricators, assemblers. Everybody, like you said, they see different angles on the organization. They're looking to get different things out of it. So you really need those people that can speak multiple languages.
Oh, yeah. Or at least translate, right?
Translate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's, what's the old story about, like, the 8 different people describing the same elephant to the blind person?
Exactly. And that happens every minute of every single day.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, on the product management side, this is something I've thought a lot about, developing a product management team here at Wisconsin Lighting Lab. I know product management historically, I think it kind of started in software, and I see a lot more hardware and even manufacturing companies start to adopt that type of role. If you were to define product management, you spent 8 years there. What does a product manager do? What's their chief focus, and what does success look like in the product management position?
All right. Have you seen the movie Office Space?
100 times.
All right. And you know where the he's getting fired and he's like, no, I bring the papers to the engineers.
I feel like that joke, somebody tells that joke at least once a week here.
So I'd say that's an oversimplified way to talk about product management.
Yep. That's so funny. It's like engineers are not people. Yeah.
So
right.
I was always focused on, and I still am. Like I said, I moved to the office next to the current product manager, to the sales manager job. So I'm always like, what are you doing over there? I need to sell what you do. So it is a lot of, I define it as voice of the customer, but if you Google voice of the customer, you're going to get get these packets, do this, hold this session, have this forum, so on and so forth. But in a nutshell, the way I always viewed product management was, what are the customers in need of that is in our wheelhouse to create and deliver, and how can I ask a developer to create that in developer talk?
So
right?
Separate from engineering are executing on the requirements that the product manager develops. So then project management versus account management versus sales engineering, there's some overlap there.
Major overlap. Yeah. My favorite part of the product management role was getting to work with all the different groups. I'd get to work with the technical group to understand the problems, understand the shortcomings in our product. Then I'd get to work with sales to say, are these problems that are identified things we can sell? Are there, from the salespeople, are there reasons we're losing business? Are there things that customers want that would be nice? That are there things we're doing that we could enhance and put a price tag on? To the engineering group, development, so on and so forth, which those are my favorite to speak to, right? Because often an engineer will do exactly what you tell them, right? I would always say if I told them to make a gun, you'd get one shot. It would shoot straight out the bottom, right at your toe, and break. So
it's all about the requirements.
Yeah. Fortunately,
right?
at TEKLYNX though, we have the type of developers who we could say, we have a gun. They'd be like, or we want a gun. They'd say, you probably want a safety. I know you, and all the complementary things that would make it nicer. But the more requirements, the better. And then circling back to the marketing group, so the whole cycle can start over. Marketing markets it, sales sells it, support supports it, product management gets to be the Wizard of Oz in between all of that most of the time.
What do the timelines look like? So product management is being fed information, or they're seeking information, or it's both? It's reciprocal, like product management is educating the sales team on what is possible, and the sales team is reporting back to the product management team on yes or no.
In the perfect world, it's that seamless.
It is. Okay.
Most of the time, it's obviously the salespeople want it yesterday, right? And
no way.
Product management wants to digest the information. Yes. The business, and I hate when people say that, but the business wants to make sure that the risks we take are going to have the outcome we need, right? And the engineering team wants exactly the right amount of work to keep everybody fully busy at every moment of the day without any extra, and they definitely don't want a requirement to come in last minute from somebody who has the authority to make that change, right? So, and support, they want products that don't make the phone ring.
Yeah.
So, I forgot your question entirely.
No, that was a great.
Oh yeah, the reciprocal side.
Yeah,
I'd say it's both.
Because there's, I see even with our business, there's such great information at all times that should be fed somewhere and digested, and then distributed to the folks that can solve the problem. And it sounds like the product management is a great hub for that.
Yeah.
Speak or translate for the engineering team, the technical folks. Interact with the customers and the sales team to know what the problems are that need to be solved. And no, I appreciate that insight, because I do see in the manufacturing space, especially companies that are developing products. They're not just making parts for somebody else's products. I see more and more product management type roles being adopted.
Yeah, it's it helped accelerate our business. We still do. We talk about it maybe twice a year, having a forum or like a user group, right? And every year it comes back to the same thing. It's like, well, we're not an ERP system, right? Even our enterprise label management system, TEKLYNX Central, with the web-based printing that combines all the other stuff, now that it's deployed across hundreds of very large companies, it's still, everybody's got their own special, unique use case for how they use it. So our user group is less of our customers talking to our customers like you'd see at an SAP or a Oracle type forum. It's more of the engineers talking to the customers, maybe bringing in the customer to discuss with all the engineers to facilitate future enhancements or new product ideas with product management.
Sure. Yeah. We try and do something similar where we're going to customer visits. I'm actually going to Ohio next week with one of our account managers and our applications director, and just get the right people in the room talking. If it's a technical problem on the control side, well, bring one of our controls engineers. If it's if we're retrofitting a large lighting tower, well, bring a mechanical engineer. So there's not as much translation that's needed. So it sounds very similar.
How nice is it to be back out and about?
Oh man, very, very nice. Yeah. It was. This area stayed relatively open because there's just so much manufacturing.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of shutdown that could happen, but it's really nice to see certain markets being open for business again, and being mindful of some of the safety concerns and things like that. But it's nice to interact and solve problems in person. I don't think every business problem can be solved via Zoom.
Oh,
so it's nice to be able to hash things out in person.
We can't do WiLLcast via Zoom.
No,
we haven't yet. I'm surprised.
I was desperate for a while, man. I thought about it.
It's nice to be back in the WiLLcast game too, which that's been a lot of fun. So you're in a sales leadership role now. I'm curious to get your thoughts on your sales philosophy and sales approach. If you talk to 10 different people in sales, there's 10 different ways that people approach supporting their customers. One of the things I really appreciate about you was, you were very honest about, some of the things you could help with, some of the things you couldn't help with.
Yeah.
When you're, managing your team and managing your approach, what would you say your philosophy is when it comes to sales management?
I have to adapt depending on which part of the organization we're talking about.
Kind of back to the prior point.
Yeah. When we talk about the commodity products or the label design products that we sell quite a bit through our channel of value-added resellers, I put on the mindset of managing a channel. Because ultimately the channel's representing us. How do I take care of them?
So it's educating the channel so they can resell. And we have a strategic partnership channel as well, where there's sales organizations that represent our brand, our products, as well as other brands and products. So it's that sales team. They do work on project business where they're helping support that channel's customer base, but a lot of it is awareness of our products, our brands, and education. So it sounds very similar.
Yeah. Awareness, tools. The channel loves tools, right? Product selector guide, a demo that starts with a label for the auto industry halfway done. And they also love coffee and donuts and a friendly face at their location, right?
So what does the engineering team do?
That's, they're... now, the enterprise side is where I can say we have a philosophy that I find more fun, right? And it's all around solving a problem, right? Nobody's going to spend a nickel if we're not solving a problem. So we try very hard to not start like what I did here, throwing out all the product names and telling you exactly what we did. We try on the enterprise side of the business to really talk about business problems. Majority of the time, businesses are doing something, right? It's rare that we talk to a company that's not labeling anything. Actually, we have a really cool case study with a company called The Real Good Life that we took from a Sharpie marker to actually printing labels. And we did like a video case study, but that was fascinating because it was like, I've worked here a long time and it's rare that I see somebody with the marker still. So a majority of the time it's somebody who has a process or a procedure in play, and we really just focus on what are the problems, fully understanding them, digesting them, and then switching to what products do we offer that can solve that problem, and ultimately associating a value to it. And then, right, you run a business, the decision is made, is the spend on the product.
ROI, right?
Yeah. Is it going to be justified based on the money it saves?
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at a trade show yesterday in Milwaukee, and kind of on topic, but it was wire processing related. But there were some assembly vendors there, and there's this one vendor that had this really cool setup where they actually they projected a hologram onto the assembly bench.
Okay.
So it sounds, I'm sure a lot of your labels are used for, there's probably some instructions involved as well, but more or less they were projecting instructions onto the assembly bench or onto the workbench for the staff.
Oh, I was hoping it was like a hologram of Michael Jackson.
Well, there actually was that. There was another vendor that was doing something like that too. But a lot of it, it comes down to the centralized database, approving work instructions, improving labels, and then projecting or distributing it to the people that are using it. But it was kind of an interesting parallel. It wasn't a label specifically, but it was kind of a holographic label.
Oh yeah. Well, and labels. The core of our business is labels.
Yeah.
But as soon as you put a design application in front of somebody and they say, well, I could print my instructions for use out of this as well, or I could have it print a complementary work order, pick list, pack list, and the data is being facilitated from the same spot. So we've often seen people kind of exploit the features of our product to complement it with...
Once they see the usefulness of the labeling side, to be able to apply that to other functions.
To circle back to the product management side, we have strategically put things into the product to manage pick lists that may be multiple pages, and it's still, for labels, but we can handle a document based on that, and it's... I'm going full circle here, Adam. So
please do.
It complements it, right? It's maximizing the ROI on your investment in the product because you can do more with it. To complement on, the sales philosophy, one of the things that we really hit home when we're talking about an automated solution, right? Printing out of your ERP system or your warehouse management system is you've spent a considerable amount of money on that system and you're trying to maximize the ROI on that. Bolting labeling onto the back of that is a very great way to not only justify an ROI on our product, but also maximize the ROI on your existing business system. And based on our initial conversation, it's exactly what you guys do here with everything that's coming out of your system.
And you were absolutely right. Once you witnessed the system and you kind of saw the technology capabilities that we had in-house, you said, I think you guys, if you kind of do this, you do that, you can kind of spin this thing up in a few weeks, and that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, so I saw the labels today.
Awesome. Yeah. So if people want to find you, if they want to contact you, we've got a lot of good manufacturing people in our network. Where can they get in touch?
They can always go to www.teklynx.com.
And that's TEKLYNX.com.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we can share with the video my email. I'm happy to. I actually prefer to communicate people directly, even if it's just a question or a networking thing. I can funnel you to the right people, but I'm always available, always happy to help. And if anybody wants to invite me and a member of my sales team to take a look at their manufacturing process, as you know, even if I can't help, I love seeing it. It's something
No, you were
I'm passionate
super
about.
helpful. It was, confirming maybe some of our suspicions of certain directions we could go, but also, just overall, it was great to sync up and learn some stuff. And you're very open and very helpful. So we appreciated that.
Right on. And you guys got a brewery, so.
There's that. There's always a reason to come
Yeah.
here. The brewery might be one of them.
Yeah.
But, well, man, thank you very much.
Thank you,
That was
Adam.
awesome.
Yeah,
Appreciate
have a
it.
good one.